Let me ask you something. How many times can one man fall from grace before the ground itself says, "Nah, we're full"? Try the basement. Because baby Martell Holt just turned messy into a full-blown lifestyle brand. And if you thought the drama was simmering down, think again. Tasha K just lit the internet on fire with one clip, one drop. One truth bomb so loud you could hear the sound of Martell's reputation shattering across state lines. Forget subtlety, forget PR, spin this isn't a scandal, this is a demolition. And front row center, Arionne Curry, the self-proclaimed sidekick turned chaos coordinator, screaming like it's her audition tape for Real Housewives. Reject edition. But here's the kicker. This isn't just reality TV gossip anymore. Oh no. We're talking harassment claims, courthouse meltdowns, receipts so heavy they need their own storage unit, and behavior so ridiculous you'd swear it was a bad parody. Except it's not. This is real life. So buckle up, because we're about to peel back the layers of lies, shade, and Instagram filters, and expose what really happens when clout chasing collides with courtroom drama. Questions are, you ready for the receipts? Or is Martell's ego too fragile for the truth? Let us start at the beginning. Because if you do not understand where the fire started, you will never understand why the flames are spreading this fast and this high, and the smoke is choking everyone who thought they were safe from the mess but now cannot look away from the spectacle. Because Martell Holt Arionne Curry have managed to turn private chaos into public theater, and Tasha K was simply the person who switched on the spotlight so everyone could see the cracks that had been there all along. Martell was once polished, clean-cut, the man who strutted across television screens pretending to be the dream husband and the successful businessman, but behind that charm was a trail of infidelity, manipulation, and gaslighting that Melody Cherie had to carry like an anchor tied to her feet until she finally cut the rope and said, enough. The story could have ended there with a clean break, divorce papers signed, and co-parenting arrangements made like adults, but Martell has never been one to walk away quietly. He has always believed that if he talks louder, smiles wider, and flexes harder, the truth will somehow get drowned out. But when Tasha K dropped that clip, the illusion shattered, because what we saw was not a husband or even a co-parent, but a man still obsessed with control, still mocking the woman he once vowed to protect, and still dragging Arionne Curry into situations where she had no business being except as his chaotic sidekick. The reason this moment mattered so much is because people are tired of the performance. They are tired of men who play the victim while women carry the burden of proof and survival. When Melody came forward and said she was still being harassed, still being followed, still having her peace stolen, some people rolled their eyes as if her fear was an exaggeration. That was until the receipts began to stack higher than Martell's excuses. Court filings, text messages, screenshots, actual fines for harassing communication all painted a picture that was far darker than Martell's filtered gym selfies could ever hide. Instead of owning up to his behavior, Martell doubled down with jokes about how Melody dressed for court, as if humiliation was a sport and trauma was a punchline. Imagine a grown man reducing the seriousness of legal proceedings to a comedy set while the mother of his children stands in that same courtroom, fighting for her safety. That is not love. That is not parenting. That is not even decency. That is cruelty dressed up as swagger. And then there is Arionne Curry, the woman, Martell, once degraded by calling a peasant, but now keeps close enough to serve as his backup dancer in the ongoing circus. She was not sitting quietly in the background. She was outside the courthouse, yelling, gesturing, and inserting herself into a battle that never belonged to her, because the more Melody healed, the more Arionne seemed desperate to prove that she mattered in Martell's chaotic universe. But here is the ugly truth. She does not matter to him in the way she thinks she does. He has used her as a prop, as a distraction, as a weapon to jab at Melody when he runs out of insults. And yet she stays because being orbiting chaos still feels closer to power than being left behind in silence. The tragedy is that she is so entangled in Martell's games that she cannot see the humiliation written all over the scenes where she screams for his validation. Meanwhile, Melody has done the opposite of what Martell and Arionne expected. Instead of retaliating online, instead of posting messy clapbacks, instead of trading insults, she posted a rooftop picture, a calm caption about peace, and carried herself with the kind of serenity that cannot be staged. And that silence spoke louder than any rant Martell could ever record. Because when someone refuses to play your game, you lose your grip. Martell is losing his grip, and it terrifies him. The internet has started piecing together the timeline of his behavior, and every old video where he smirked at Melody's pain, every old interview where he dodged accountability, every shady remark he tossed out like confetti is now being replayed with new meaning. He is no longer the charming reality star with a complicated marriage. He is the man whose actions line up perfectly with the definition of harassment. And here is where the scandal truly begins. To rot because once the narrative turned from gossip to safety, the sympathy shifted. People are no longer laughing with Martell. They are laughing at him. They see the selfies, the desperate captions about being a great father, the endless gym photos, and they know it is not strength but damage control. It is not confidence but fear, and it is not the face of a man in control but of a man losing everything except his pride. The performance is over. The mask is slipping. And what is left is a truth that no amount of denial can erase. The mask slipping is exactly what has people glued to this story, because Martell thought he could run the same playbook he has always run. Blame Melody, call her dramatic, flip the narrative, and then lean on his charm to smooth everything over. But this time the audience is not buying it, and that is what makes this chapter of his downfall even more fascinating, because every move he makes only digs the hole deeper. When he tried to claim that if he had really done something wrong, he would be in jail, the internet reminded him that plenty of people break the law and still walk free. That a fine for harassing communication does not equal innocence. It equals a warning. And that his own admission in court was enough to prove Melody had been telling the truth all along. Instead of silence and reflection, he chose deflection. Posting curated images of himself smiling at the gym or with his kids. Trying to paint the picture of a devoted father and misunderstood man. But the timing was too suspicious, too obvious. And the audience could feel the desperation through every filter. What he failed to understand is that you cannot outshine receipts with Instagram posts. You cannot erase court filings with lighting effects. And you cannot gaslight an entire community when the paper trail is public record. Arionne Curry's role in all this has only fueled the circus, because she continues to show up in places where her presence makes the chaos bigger. Instead of pulling Martell back or urging him to stop, she seems determined to push him further, yelling outside courthouses, taking digs online, and trying to paint herself as the woman who knows the real Martell, while the rest of the world only sees an edited version. The irony is painful because the real Martell has already been revealed, and it is not a version anyone is jealous of. Arionne has tied her identity so tightly to him that even his downfall feels like hers, and she is too deep in it to let go. So she plays the role of his accomplice in drama, the one who will scream when he cannot, the one who will antagonize Melody when his hands are tied by court orders, and the one who will always be near enough to show she still exists in his orbit. But existence in an orbit is not the same as being valued. It is just being close enough to feel the pull of gravity without ever standing on solid ground. Meanwhile, Melody's silence has become the loudest part of the story. She does not need to rant or spill tea because her composure is making the internet do the work for her. Fans are piecing together old clips, resurfacing old interviews, highlighting patterns, and calling out the gaslighting that once fooled viewers into thinking both sides were equally toxic. The new understanding is clear. Melody was enduring harassment while Martell was busy performing for cameras. And that realization has turned her into the sympathetic figure that audiences rally behind. Her strength in focusing on business, family, and peace instead of retaliation makes Martell look smaller in comparison. Because every time she chooses calm, it magnifies his chaos. She is the image of someone moving forward, while he is the image of someone trapped in the past, chasing attention, clinging to relevance, and refusing to accept that the story has shifted. The internet is not forgiving this time. In the past, Martell could brush things off, laugh on camera, and spin the story. But now the audience is sharper, the receipts are plentiful, and the sympathy is gone. Every selfie he posts feels like a cry for pity. Every excuse he makes feels like recycled lines from an old script. And every attempt to redirect the spotlight only brings more attention to the pattern of disrespect. The more he tries to convince the world he is the victim, the more obvious it becomes that the only victim here has been Melody. And the audience has grown tired of pretending otherwise. The curtain has been pulled back, the performance exposed. And what remains is a man scrambling for validation while the woman he once tried to control is thriving without him. What makes this entire scandal spiral into something larger than reality? Television drama is the fact that Martell refuses to understand that the narrative is no longer his to control, and every attempt he makes to regain power only exposes more of the truth that he wanted buried, because the receipts keep multiplying and the audience keeps connecting dots he thought were forgotten. Old interviews where he smirked at Melody's pain are resurfacing. Old videos where he boasted about being a responsible man are circulating again. And old moments of arrogance are now being replayed with captions that remind everyone of how hollow his words were. Each clip becomes another nail in the coffin of his public image, and the more he tries to erase the past, the more visible it becomes. He thought he could distract people with filtered selfies at the gym or carefully staged pictures with his children, but audiences are not blind. They see through the glossy images and recognize the performance for what it is. A desperate attempt to rewrite a story that has already been written in bold letters. And right beside him still is Arionne Curry, whose role in this chaos has become both pitiful and infuriating, because she does not seem to realize that she is being used as an accessory in a scandal that will never end with her being respected. She shouts, she defends him, she positions herself as the woman who knows him best, but the truth is that she is only pulled closer when he needs someone to distract from the spotlight burning on him, and once that light shifts, she will be left in the shadows again. The tragic irony is that Arionne believes her loyalty makes her powerful when in reality, it makes her disposable, because Martell has shown time and again that he does not truly value the women around him. Not Melody, who carried his family in dreams. Not Arionne, who clung to him despite humiliation. Not even the producers or hosts who gave him a platform and then were met with arrogance and disrespect. He is consistent only in his ability to alienate those who support him and in his inability to take accountability for the damage he causes. This is why the backlash feels heavier this time, because it is not just Melody's word against his. It is years of behavior colliding with undeniable receipts and public awareness that will not let him slip away with charm. The internet has become a courtroom of its own, where clips, screenshots, and testimony are reviewed by millions, and in that court, Martell has already been found guilty of arrogance, gaslighting, and shameless disrespect. The power of this collective memory is something he underestimated, and it is crushing him in real time. Melody, on the other hand, continues to be the stark contrast that amplifies his downfall. She is not feeding into the chaos. She is building businesses, raising her children, and posting calm images that radiate peace. And each time she does it, she reminds the audience that she has chosen healing over conflict. That choice has made her a symbol of resilience, and it terrifies Martell, because nothing scares a manipulator more than losing the ability to provoke a reaction. His insults, his jokes, his attempts at mockery bounce off the wall of her silence, and the louder he gets, the smaller he looks. What he believed would destroy her has only highlighted her strength, and every time she stands unbothered, he crumbles a little more under the weight of his own exposure. The public is watching these two paths play out at the same time. One leading to freedom and growth, and the other leading to self-destruction. And the contrast is so sharp that it has turned the entire story into a lesson on what happens when you cling to control instead of letting go. And that is why this story has exploded far beyond gossip blogs, because it is not just about a marriage that failed or a couple who could not get along. It is about the pattern of behavior that shows what happens when accountability is rejected and pride is worshipped. Martell thought he could spin, deny, and charm his way out of this storm, but the truth has stacked too high for spin too. Barry and his arrogance has become his downfall. The audience has stopped giving him sympathy. The receipts have stopped giving him cover. And his attempts at distraction have only brought more attention to the cracks he wanted hidden. Melody does not need to fight him anymore because the truth is fighting for her, and the community is amplifying that truth louder than any statement she could write. And so Martell finds himself cornered by his own actions, mocked by his own words, and overshadowed by the woman he once tried to silence, who now shines brighter than ever. The scandal is no longer just entertainment. It has become a mirror reflecting how easily people excuse abuse until the evidence is undeniable, and how powerful it becomes when the person who is silenced chooses healing instead of revenge. That is why Martell is unraveling, and that is why this story has become more than messy drama. It has become a warning about what happens when the mask finally slips and the truth cannot be hidden anymore. So now that you have seen the mess unfold and the truth crawl out from every corner, the question is not whether Martell Holt can spin his way out of this, because that ship has already sunk. The real question is what side of history you want to stand on. Are you going to keep pretending the chaos is just entertainment? Or are you ready to admit that what we are watching is a pattern that should never be excused? Every selfie, every excuse, every court document has told its own story, and together they reveal a man losing the very control he fought so hard to keep. Melody chose peace and healing, Martell chose pride and noise, and we all saw who came out stronger. But now it is your turn to weigh in, because these stories do not end when the credits roll. They keep going in the court of public opinion, and your voice is part of it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think Martell can ever recover from this, or if the internet has finally had enough. And if you want the next wave of receipts and revelations, hit like, hit subscribe, and stay locked in.